My wife's cousin said he just needed a couch for a week. Then I found him going through my safe. I kicked him out. The next day, my in-laws accused me of threatening family with a weapon. My wife called the cops. But when I checked my security camera footage, I saw something that changed everything. I didn't grow up trusting people easily. I keep my circle small. So when my wife, Dana, told me her cousin Marco needed a place to crash for just a week, my first instinct was no. But I've been married to Dana for 11 years, and I've learned to pick my battles. I agreed, reluctantly. Marco always gave me bad vibes. I met him twice before. The kind of guy who drinks all your beer, eats your food, and tries to act like he belongs just because he shares blood with someone. He never kept a job. Always had some investment he was working on. I've worked my ass off my entire life. I run my own auto repair shop in Charlotte. Built it from the ground up. I take pride in what I've earned. And I don't like freeloaders. Marco showed up with that same cocky grin, like we were lucky to have him. Just a week, he said. That turned into him taking long showers, leaving his laundry all over the basement, helping himself to food without asking. He made comments about our house like he was jealous, asked how much we paid for it, what our mortgage looked like, how much I made at the shop. Way too many questions. I started locking doors. My garage leads into the house, and I saw him poking around in there one night. He said he was just looking for tools to fix a loose cabinet. I never asked him to fix anything. It wasn't just that he was nosy. It felt like he was planning something, like he was testing me. By day 4, I noticed my home office door slightly open. I always keep it closed. I keep personal files in there, car titles, business documents, bank info. I didn't have proof he was snooping, but I moved some of my more sensitive stuff to the bedroom safe that night. The weirdest thing. That same night, he asked Dana in front of me, "Hey, is your security camera always recording or only when it detects motion?" He laughed like it was a joke. Dana kind of brushed it off, said, "Don't worry. It's just for the outside." But I knew what I had. I've got a hidden hallway camera, cheap but reliable. It faces the door to the basement and catches anyone coming or going. Day 6 is when it all came to a head. I left work early after a customer canceled their appointment. I pull into the driveway and notice the front door is unlocked. That's unusual. I head upstairs and hear movement from the bedroom. Marco was standing there with the safe open. My safe. He had one of my car titles in his hand and my birth certificate sitting on the bed. When he saw me, his eyes went wide. He froze. "What the hell are you doing?" I asked, calm but cold. He stammered something about checking if the safe was fireproof. "Dana said it was," he mumbled. My voice never went above normal volume. I told him to get his stuff and get out. He acted offended, said I was being dramatic, said it was a misunderstanding. But I stared him down until he walked out, muttering under his breath, slamming the door on his way out. That night, Dana barely spoke to me. She kept checking her phone. I asked her directly, "What the hell is going on between you and Marco?" She looked me in the eye and said, "You're being paranoid." The next morning, everything flipped. I was drinking coffee when her parents called. Her dad never liked me much, starts in saying I threatened Marco with a weapon, that I scared the hell out of him. I asked, "What are you talking about?" "I didn't threaten anyone." An hour later, 2 cops show up at my front door. One male, one female. Professional. Calm. But they had a report saying I'd brandished a firearm during an argument. I don't even keep a gun in the house. They said I wasn't under arrest, but they needed to take statements. Then Dana said something that almost made me drop the coffee cup in my hand. "I'm sorry," she said, "but he was scared. You acted unstable." I looked at her, really looked at her, and I saw something behind her eyes, something rehearsed, like this was a plan. I asked the cops to wait a minute and went to my laptop, pulled up the hallway cam footage. I showed them the moment I came home. No gun. No yelling. Just me confronting Marco. The officers watched. Then I asked, "Do you mind if I show you something else?" They shrugged. I queued up footage from 2 nights earlier. Marco came upstairs while I was at work late. Dana opened the bedroom door for him. She punched in the safe code herself, handed him the small key to my filing cabinet. He went through my files while she stood there. They talked softly, but I boosted the audio on playback. Heard one word clearly: settlement. That's when I knew I wasn't paranoid. They weren't just looking through my stuff. They were planning to take me apart from the inside out. After I showed the cops the footage, they didn't say much. The male officer leaned in and asked if I wanted to file a report. I told him I needed time to think. He left me his card and said, "If you feel unsafe or want to pursue charges, call us." Dana stood there like a stranger. No apology. No shock. No anger at Marco. Nothing. Just cold. She looked at me and said, "You shouldn't have been recording inside the house without telling me." That's what she led with. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "Let me explain." Just that I shouldn't have caught her. That night, I didn't sleep. I watched more footage. Found more moments, small things that now screamed betrayal. Dana checking my mail while I was out. Marco on the phone in the basement whispering about documents. At one point, Dana called someone and said, "We just need to get everything lined up before he finds out." I didn't recognize the voice on the other end, but they said, "If he gets aggressive, you can file first. That'll protect you." Protect her? From what? I'd never laid a hand on her. I'd never raised my voice at her in 11 years. But I started to understand what this was. They weren't just trying to take my money. They were setting me up to lose everything. I texted my lawyer the next morning, told him I needed to talk. He set an emergency appointment for that afternoon. Before I left, Dana was in the kitchen acting like nothing happened. I asked her straight up, "Are you planning to divorce me?" She looked surprised for half a second, then said, "Maybe we should talk about what this marriage really is." That was all I needed. I drove to my lawyer's office and laid everything out. The safe, the footage, the false report. He didn't say much, just kept taking notes. Then he looked up and said, "We need to move fast." Turns out, North Carolina is a marital property state. If she filed first and claimed abuse even without proof, it could tie up my assets for months, possibly even get me kicked out of my own house. And if they found a way to touch my business, I could lose everything I'd built. We filed that day. Divorce. Emergency order to freeze major assets. My lawyer got a judge to sign off on protecting my business accounts until things were sorted out, but that only bought time. When I got home, Dana was already gone. Her clothes, some of the kitchenware, all missing. She'd taken a few things I didn't even realize until days later: documents, old tax records, even my backup hard drive. She left a note. "This marriage was never equal. Now you'll see what that feels like." 2 days later, a sheriff served me with a restraining order. She claimed I threatened her with a weapon during the incident with Marco, even though I had footage proving otherwise. But that's when I learned something else. The footage meant nothing unless I had backup. And my backup drive? She'd taken it. Marco disappeared. No address. No contact. Just vanished. I checked his socials, deleted. I drove by the few relatives I knew he stayed with before. Nobody admitted seeing him. Meanwhile, Dana lawyered up. Her attorney filed motions trying to unfreeze assets, including joint accounts I hadn't touched yet. They also filed a temporary spousal support request, claiming she gave up her career to support my business. She worked part-time at a yoga studio. That was it. But in court, things looked different on paper. And then I got the letter. She was seeking half the business. Not the house. Not just money. The shop. The one thing in my life I built with my own hands. And that's when I stopped playing defense. That's when I decided I was going to take them both down. I knew Dana and Marco had planned something, but I didn't realize how deep it went until I started digging. My lawyer suggested we hire a private investigator, said if there was more to this, we'd need leverage. I agreed. 2 days later, I handed over everything. Old text messages, screenshots, timestamps from the footage, even names of people Marco had mentioned in passing. A week later, the investigator came back with something that changed everything. Marco wasn't just Dana's cousin. He was her ex, not blood-related. His mother had married Dana's uncle when they were teenagers. They'd grown up together. The family called them cousins to keep it simple. But 5 years before I met Dana, they'd been more than that. The P.I. found photos, granny, old, buried in social media archives. But it was clear. They were a couple. Dana had lied about it. Always called him like a brother. Turns out, they had history. And worse, there were money transfers between them going back months. Small at first, $200 here, $150 there, but consistent. Then a $3,000 transfer just 2 weeks before Marco showed up at our door. It wasn't just betrayal. It was fraud. I brought this to my lawyer, and he lit up. "This changes everything," he said. "If we can prove collusion to commit fraud and an intent to falsify a domestic abuse claim, we can take this to the judge." But Dana struck first again. She filed a claim alleging emotional abuse, said I was controlling, that I monitored her movements, that I intimidated her with surveillance. Her lawyer called it a pattern of coercive behavior. The hearing for temporary support was scheduled. I showed up with my lawyer, exhausted but ready, and Dana came in wearing a neck brace. I almost laughed out loud. She had never worn that thing a day in her life. No ER visit. No doctor's report filed. But there she was, telling the court that the emotional trauma triggered physical symptoms. It was a performance. Her lawyer played it perfectly. Made me look like a paranoid husband obsessed with control. Then they dropped the biggest surprise. Marco was listed as a character witness. I told my lawyer, we have to get ahead of this. So we did. My lawyer filed a counter motion. Fraud, malicious falsehood. Once we filed the counter motion for fraud and conspiracy, everything changed. The court scheduled a hearing to review the new evidence. My lawyer requested an emergency deposition for Dana and a subpoena for Marco. We had to act fast. If Marco vanished, we'd lose a key part of the case. The private investigator found him 3 days before the hearing. He was staying with an old friend in Asheville using a different name for job apps. We had the address. My lawyer got the court to issue a subpoena. The server caught him on the porch completely off guard. He tried to refuse it. Too bad, it doesn't work that way. The night before the hearing, I barely slept. I was angry, not just about what they tried to take, but what they turned me into. I'd spent my life being careful, being the steady one. Now I was labeled abusive, controlling, paranoid, all based on lies. The hearing was brutal. Dana came in dressed like a victim again. Soft voice, trembling hands. Her lawyer played the sympathy card hard. Claimed she lived in fear. Claimed Marco had come to her for help after being terrified of me. Then Marco took the stand. He started lying immediately. Said I flew into a rage. Said I threatened him with a wrench. Said I pointed a gun at him even though we already submitted footage showing no weapon. Then my lawyer stood up and started playing footage. First, the one in me calmly telling him to leave. Then, without a word, he played the clip of Dana unlocking the safe for Marco. Talking about settlement, Marco went pale. Dana froze. Then came the financial records, the transfers, the photos, the years-old romantic messages we found from Marco to Dana proving the cousin's story was a lie. The judge's face changed cold. My lawyer didn't stop. He showed the timeline, how Dana filed first, how she tried to freeze my accounts, how Marco disappeared, and how she'd stolen the backup hard drive. Then we dropped the final hammer, the false police report. I'd filed a complaint about it with the same department, and we had a letter from one of the original responding officers confirming there was no weapon visible, no aggression, and no cause to escalate. By the end, Dana wouldn't even look up. Marco looked ready to both. The judge dismissed all of Dana's claims. He lifted the restraining order and awarded me temporary sole possession of the house and the business. He also referred both Dana and Marco to the district attorney for further investigation, potential charges for perjury, and conspiracy to commit fraud. My lawyer filed a civil lawsuit against Marco for attempted theft and invasion of privacy. That one's still ongoing. Dana tried to settle privately. She offered to walk away if I agreed not to press charges. I said no. I wanted this on record. 3 months later, she moved out of state. I heard she's working part-time again, couch surfing, the way Marco used to. No family wants to touch them after what came out in court. And me? I kept the house, kept the business, cleaned out every corner they touched, changed every lock, every password. I used to think marriage was about trust. Now I know. It's about who shows up when things get ugly. They showed me exactly who they were, and I made sure the world saw it too. If you enjoyed the story and want to hear more just like it, don't forget to like the video, drop a comment with your thoughts and subscribe for more stories. Your support helps these stories reach more people, and trust me, the next one, it's even wilder.